So AI is really fun for me right now. I think it's awesome for brainstorming. And like, because the creative process is like, it is not linear, and it's like, you sometimes have to like get out of the box, like the box of your own head, because sometimes you're just like so fixated on like one thing that you're not willing to explore other ideas. Often the ideas that these like AI programs give me are like trash, but they get me thinking about like whatever I'm stuck on in a different way, because they are going somewhere else than I ever even thought to go. And then a lot of times we'll be like, oh, like here's something I could do. And so I think it's really helpful for like unblocking. It's also really good at like coming up with like, well, I use it for research constantly. So like, cause it's so much quicker than like Google. So I'll ask it anything, and it might be wrong, but I'm writing fiction. In my universe, this is how it is.
Welcome to the Inkit podcast. Today, I have the privilege of speaking with author SKYLER MASON, whose journey to success is nothing short of remarkable. Starting in 2020, she has published a dozen books, generated over $200,000 in sales this year, and has built a TikTok account with over 530 million views. She's a huge success on TikTok, and also part of a select group of authors publishing on Galatea. I'm Ali Albazaz, founder and CEO of Inkit, and today we're going to explore the secrets of SKYLER's success. Welcome to the Inkit podcast today. I was very much looking forward to speaking with you because the skyrocketing success that you've had over the last couple of years, a lot of authors are looking up to you, and they're asking themselves, like, how did SKYLER make that? How did that work? How did she become so successful, especially on TikTok? And every author right now is like trying to figure out TikTok, and you did it. But before we dive into like all your success and like all the learnings that you have in over the last couple of years, let's start by like, how did you even get started? How were the beginnings?
So when I first started writing, my son was a year and a half, and he was, I adore him. He was just like, he was a terror of a 1.5-year-old. And he did not stop moving ever. And he would be like getting into drawers and dumping everything out. If we put child locks on them, he figured those out immediately.
Wow.
I literally could not, like, I couldn't do anything but chase him around all day. And that was what I did all day. And it was really tiring. And the one thing I was able to do was read romance novels on my phone.
Okay.
I could do that. Like, I could literally like hold my phone and like have him like on like, not a leash, but I'd be like holding onto his shirt, and I could do that.
Okay.
And I did. And it was like actually the only escape I had. So I read romance novels obsessively for quite a while. Like I would read like one a day for like months and months. And then finally I decided that I wanted to write one. And I don't know why I thought I'd be able to do that, because I've never been...
At that point, you had been reading already like hundreds of books or so.
I had read so many, but I had never been a writer. Like I never had writing aspirations. I was a speech therapist at the time, part-time.
Okay.
And I don't know why I thought I could write one, but I wanted to. And I could only do it when he was napping or like in bed. So it was really slow. The first one I wrote was absolute trash, like unsalvageable. And I try to salvage everything. And this is like, no one wants to read this. I don't even want to read it.
I guess that's with everybody, right? Like everything that you do for the first time is not the best, right?
Yes. And I think like new writers need to understand that like your first output, even for me, like my first output on a first draft is trash. Like it's like so bad, but like after a lot of iteration, a lot of editing, it can become something. And somehow I just had the audacity to like think that I would get better. And I did. And I mean, it took me a long time though. Like, I think it took me a lot longer than most writers. Like when I first started writing to when I first published, I think was 3 years.
Oh, wow. That was the first book, the book that you said it was not that great.
Well, I didn't touch that one. I started writing a new one, like maybe a year later.
So you never published the first book?
Oh, no.
You did? Okay.
Oh, no.
So you were your own critic saying like that it was not that good. So maybe it was.
I will actually test that hypothesis and I will get this book out and see. I'm guessing that you are wrong, but I'll see.
Let's see. So basically you were reading a lot and then you started writing and then you wrote the first book. It took 3 years to write that book.
The first book, no, it took 2 years. So that first one, the very first one, I scrapped after like a year. And then I started writing the other one. And that one took 2 years from start to finish.
Wow. I see.
And I would say that one was also trash until I finally submitted it for editing. And it was like once I got someone else's eyes, like I finally understood storytelling. Like it clicked. And I had been reading books and stuff, but I clearly just wasn't getting it. But her feedback, because she was able to like take the story I had written and been like, okay, here's what you do like for this scene. Like, here's how you write like a scene that leads into the next scene. And I was like, okay, like I got it. And then I think I was able to finish that book in like 3 months after that. And I mean, I like completely rewrote it almost.
Wow. Based on all the feedback you got.
Yeah, but it was that helpful that it took me 2 years and then 3 months to like actually like write a readable book. But that book makes zero money because it wasn't that great. Even though it was like acceptable, it was not that great.
What kept you going? I think at that point you were like already 3 years in. For your first book, you never published, you didn't believe in it. With your second book, you got a ton of edits, you rewrote the entire thing. And then you kept going.
Yeah, I did. I always do that. I don't know. Like I will like have no success on TikTok for like months at a time when normally people are like get so frustrated. They're like, I'm done. I'm like, no, I'm going to keep going till I figure this out. So I don't know. I don't know what that is. I think it's probably a personality thing. But yeah, I don't usually quit things that I really want to do.
So it is quite a tough transition going from being a huge reader, reading hundreds of books, to becoming a good writer. That's what I'm hearing.
Oh yeah, like you can kind of like you can get a little smug too, like as a reader, because you'll read something, you'll be like, oh my god, I could write something better than this. And no, you can't.
You can't.
You can't. You think you can.
It's easy to critique.
Oh my gosh, it's so easy, but it's like actually writing a really engaging story is very hard.
Yeah, can imagine. And then what happened afterwards? So you wrote the second book, you published that one, self-published it. And then I got on TikTok. I was still trying to sell that book. I did not understand. Which year was that at that point?
I think it was 2021.
2021, okay.
Yeah. And I got on TikTok and within like maybe a few months, I was going viral regularly on TikTok. I was way better at TikTok than I was at writing. So I would continue to promote that book, and I did see an increase in sales, and it was enough that it made me really happy.
Wow.
So I kept pushing with TikTok. I was writing the second book in that series.
Well, what does it mean, like kept pushing with TikTok? Or like, how did you even get started on TikTok? And what do you do on TikTok? And how do you learn what to do on TikTok? And
yeah, so I think I got started because a friend of mine, an author friend, was like, oh my gosh, like this is like how you sell books. So I was like, oh, well, my book's selling nothing. So I'm going to try this. So at first, I think I was just like trying things out. Yeah, actually, you know what? That's pretty much my whole method. Like I am so against like people who have like a very like curated TikTok where they're like, okay, I'm only going to do this. I'm only going to promote my book. Like I'm only going to do this style of video. I'm going to put like a label on every single one and it's going to be this beautiful page. That is old school, like influencer days. That does not work at all on TikTok. I think the best thing to do is just try things. And then when something does better, even if it doesn't go viral, if it does better, like look at it, investigate it, and try to figure out what worked about it, what you think worked about it. And then make
so
a
you're
different
constantly
version of it.
trying like different concepts and different ways of like showing the trailer or like showing snippets of the book, or like what are the things that you're
So a lot of times it wasn't even about my book. Like it would be about like I did a bunch of stuff on Bridgerton. Like I tried to stay like
so just growing your followership. It was not like always like promote.
Yeah, I mean, you will see the best results when you promote, but I think making that other content made me way better at promoting my books because I do think that a lot of people kind of like stay in a box with TikTok. They just do what other people are doing for their books. Like the way I promote my books is not like what most authors do. And I think I figured it out from making those other videos, like making stuff about Bridgerton. I had done this TikTok series. This was like when I very first like went viral and like started gaining a following. It was called Mr. Darcy is a Dom because I love Pride and Prejudice. And it was like basically like Pride and Prejudice mixed with 50 Shades.
Okay.
And I did like 10 episodes on this. It was so ridiculous, but then I got like fans from that. Like then I had people who were like, just like wanted to see anything I posted on TikTok. But like those videos really taught me like how to promote my own book because I learned like kind of what opening lines worked. I learned how to like to tell an engaging story that would keep viewers watching. And then that's now how like I promote my books through like talking to the camera, which is not what a lot of authors do. And I think I have a far less competition because of that. I think my videos, like I'm competing with like people who do like makeup story times and not with people who are doing like slideshows of their, of their book, which it's much harder to make those go viral.
Interesting. Yeah. There's a lot of competition at this point. And yeah.
And it gets harder all the time.
Interesting. So basically by being very unique, by trying out different things, not just promoting yourself, you were able to discover what works and what doesn't work and then apply that to promoting your books and which ended up being in a very different way. So basically you try to not copy.
Yeah. I mean, I think that I try to lean into my skill set. So I think that like talking to the camera is more like I can stand out more doing that. But I think anyone who's using TikTok should lean into like what is natural for them and what they are good at. Because I think if you try to like force it, like you're going to hate it and then you're not going to stick to it. So like you should do something that's natural that you enjoy and then you're more likely to keep doing it and then you're increasing your chances of hitting.
Interesting. So you basically became like an influencer and then the influencer started selling books.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. Because then, so I released my second book in that series and it did do substantially better than my first book, but it still was not like a hit book. And then like 6 months later, I released my book Purity and then like my income just like changed dramatically like overnight. And then since then, I've sustained it. It was pretty amazing, and I've written more books in that series. And
so basically, you built up the followership on TikTok, and then once you launched that new book, that's kind of like what it made it a huge success.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's necessarily followership that matters. I really think that TikTok is a discovery platform. So like when my videos go viral, like yes, my followers see it. But generally, they see it in the first like 5,000 views. And then after that, if it's going viral, it's going out to people who are not my followers.
Right.
So I think the thing that worked for me was not necessarily building a following, but learning how to create content that's interesting in and of itself, not just like, I'm not just like hoping my followers will see like stuff about my book. Like the video itself is engaging.
Interesting. Very cool. And now you have had over 500 million views, if I remember correctly.
That's crazy.
That's crazy, right?
Yeah.
500 million views. And by just being original, by just being yourself, by just trying out and just having fun. Have you had done anything with social media before TikTok? Or was it just like, you just like discovered this and then you were just like a naturally talented person and then bam.
I'd not done social media before, but I mean, I am not like the best at TikTok. Like I definitely have like flops all the time. Like but I think the difference is that like, I'm not as bothered by those. Like I'm just like, okay, like I'm not getting it right now. I have to figure something else out. Like the old stuff isn't working anymore. I have to figure it out. But there are people who are way better at TikTok than me. But I think it just suits my personality.
Same personality that where you wrote your first book was not a great second one. You kept believing, and then third one. So it's basically the same personality that makes you like do things on TikTok and it maybe flop, but then like one goes like huge viral, and then you learn from that. So it's like just like you just never give up.
Yeah, like, delusion maybe. I don't know.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And by being on TikTok and like by being able to promote your stories, did it have any other effects? Like, were you able to learn anything from the audience and just like apply anything of that into your writing? Or is TikTok beyond helpful beyond like just like the promotion?
Yeah, actually. So now when I write scenes for my books, like I try to make sure that they have like a hook that I could potentially use on TikTok. That was something I didn't do before, but now I know like what kind of hooks people. And okay, so like I told someone this. I told my brother, and he was like, "Oh my gosh, so you're like," like he basically like said that I was like a sellout for doing that. But actually, what I think it's more like I'm now more focused on making every individual scene sparkle, which I think you should do as a writer. And TikTok made me think of that versus before, I think I was always just looking at the whole story and making sure all the pieces fit together. And now I'm like, no, I want every single scene to be like juicy.
I see. So you're thinking about the marketing in mind when writing the book.
Yeah.
I see. So which is actually like like how a lot of major companies are ran, right? Like big companies like Coca-Cola or like Apple, like the marketing people who are like telling the product people what actually to build. And like you're applying the same concept. You're just like seeing like what is working really, really well, and then try to implement that in your books.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, it wasn't conscious, but yeah.
That's pretty cool. Very awesome. And then so this was like you wrote basically the first book, which you never published, and then second book, which was not a huge thing, and then third book was the one that really took off, right?
So no, it was I guess the fourth book that I've ever written. Yeah. I see.
And
then I continue to write in that series, and each book does pretty well.
It's in the same series now. How many books are there now in that series?
There's 3, and then 1 is up for pre-order. So I'm like kind of working on that. Also working on the Galatée project, but yeah.
Nice. Very cool. And what are your learnings around all of that about like creating this series? Is that like by adding the second and third book? Is it like pushing the first book to make more sales? Is it like what are your like what is your strategy around writing this stuff, and like basically where you're deciding, okay, do I continue writing this series? Am I going to start a new series? And how do you make those decisions? How do you think about all of those things? How do you learn?
So I usually look at each book's performance to decide if I want to keep going. And they've all performed pretty well on release. I mean, there's some mistakes I've made. So like, I think it's really essential to like, if you're writing in a series of standalones, to like have a connection from one book to another. So like having the couple who is in the next book, like making an appearance in the book before it, I think is really helpful in like getting people. Because like now I'll get like people they'll write in the reviews of my books like, oh my gosh, I can't wait for Ethan and Lily's book, because they were just like mentioned or they had a few scenes.
People know it now.
Yeah, I did not do that with like my first book. Purity does not have that. And I don't see the same like solid connection between that book and the book right after it. So I will definitely do that differently.
That's a good learning.
Yeah, in my next series.
Nice. But then you try to keep them more as like standalone so that they can be read without having read the prequel.
Yeah, and people do read them out of order, and they can be read completely out of order. Like the side characters are in them, like the characters who were in previous books, but they're not like, that's not essential to like know what's going on.
I guess that's also like something like from a marketing thinking, right? Like you want to make sure that when you promote your next one, that people can immediately go read that. And it's like kind of like your marketing mindset made you create like sequels that can be read as standalones.
Yeah. And I think also having the pre-order up for the next book so that like people can immediately, when they're finished with that one, pre-order. I think that's really important. You may end up having to cancel it if that book doesn't
So you have the pre-order up already when you are launching the next book. Okay.
Yeah. And if they sign up for my newsletter, I will like send them an email that talks about that next book. Right. So that they'll be even more likely to pre-order it.
That's very cool. These are like lots of like smart tactics. Like, is that like because you were a big time reader before and like you saw like how all the other authors did it, or like where are you getting these kind of like tactics and strategies from? And like I'm asking because like there are right now like lots of aspiring authors listening to this, and they're like, oh my God, I also want to be so successful as Skyler. And they're interested in like, how did you learn that? How are you staying up to date about all these things so that they can basically learn from that and copy?
I learned from other authors. All of this that I'm saying like is so not unique to me. Like the best authors have this like nailed. So like a big author who's like, oh my gosh, she's like the smartest businesswoman ever, Katharina Mara. She's way more successful than me. Like, but she does this, and she's done talks about this, and so I try to emulate her in a lot of ways. I mean, my books are very different. I'm not emulating anyone's style. Like, I definitely, part of the fulfillment for me is having my own style, but I am like the big like principles I do take from other authors.
I see. So you're like closely watching everybody and like seeing like how they're doing it. I see. Yeah. Very cool. And where are you thinking about like next steps now, and like your next project? You said you had one more book that is right now for pre-order. You still need to go and write it. What are you thinking about like the next like 6 months or so? Is it like still very focused on TikTok and writing these projects, or like where are you? What are the things that you're spending your time on and thinking about? Are there other things other than TikTok?
Yeah, well, I'm usually looking for like new things that I can dip into that are just kind of like could like grow my readership. I'm interested in like innovating and doing things that other people are not doing. That was why I did the Galatea project, which is allowing me to write. I'm writing this book in like 3 parts, and I'm allowing the readers to vote on where they want the story to go. And I have to write it accordingly. I've never done something like that before, but I do think from what I've seen, like doing something or writing something that people want to talk about, I think is really like if you want to like write a book that like you don't even have to promote it because readers are doing that for you. I've never done that yet. The success of my books relies on like me talking about them, not other people, but like people like Katharina Mora, people like whoever wrote that new book, Rebecca Yarros, I forget what it's called. Anyways, super like hit book. Like she doesn't have to do a thing to promote that. Like the readers are doing that for her. And I think she wrote like a book that people want to talk about. And so like I'm trying to figure out like how can I write a book that people want to talk about. So
interesting.
That's why I'm trying different things. I can try as hard as I can to make the book itself remarkable. Yeah. But that is somewhat elusive. So yeah.
What are your hypotheses or thinking of like why it might be that these authors are writing, like how they're writing these books that people are talking about versus like you're absolutely right. I would say like probably for 99% of romance authors, they're doing the promotions themselves and the readers aren't contributing that much. But like few authors get to that stage where readers are like, promoting the hell out of the stories and they go super viral. What makes them different?
So, I mean, I think the best marketing is always creating a remarkable product. So I think these books are just remarkable. Like, I think they are unlike other books out there. And like, I know that the book, the Rebecca Yarros book that I can't remember the title. I've never read it. It's like this dragon book where they like, I think they ride dragons. I don't know, but it's like that is unlike anything that's out there, but yet also appeals.
So very unique storylines.
Unique, but I think it has like a great romance from what I've heard, and like people love dragons because of Game of Thrones. So like there's just a lot in there that people like. So you can create something that is like completely different, and people might hate it. I would say that was my first book, you know. But like creating something remarkable, I think is like that's the goal.
Yeah. I see. Very cool. And you mentioned earlier when we were talking that YouTube is helping you recently a lot. So is YouTube and YouTube Shorts becoming the new TikTok? Is it happening? Is that like gonna become the new thing? Or
I would not say it is the next TikTok yet. I mean, I still like when I've had many viral videos now on YouTube, and I've not seen the same like results in sales, but I have seen like a big spike in sales. Wow. So it's certainly better than Instagram Reels, which is like trash in my opinion.
Is it? Okay.
I think it has a terrible algorithm. I don't know. Mark Zuckerberg is not. He's not up to date on like whatever the TikTok people have, he does not have that. So YouTube is better. I think it has a better algorithm. I certainly have like what I would call like fans on there, like people they'll say like in my videos that they're like, oh my gosh, I love your videos. And it's all just recycled. Like it's.
And this is all YouTube Shorts.
Yes, YouTube Shorts. I've created no long form YouTube content. Yeah, that is something that I'm planning to do in the future.
And you just crossed 100,000 followers on YouTube.
Yeah.
Just with YouTube Shorts. Wow.
And in like 6 months.
That's huge.
Too. And I'm not doing anything. Like this is all just stuff I've already made. And
interesting.
So that's like really useful for people. Like recycle the content you make and put it elsewhere, because you never know. Like it could pop off, and it's really not that hard to do. Yeah.
And then like you see like usually like the same videos that are going viral on TikTok, and then they go even more viral on YouTube Shorts, or what do you usually see?
No, it's usually different videos, which is amazing.
Interesting. Wow.
Because it makes me feel like, you know, the videos that don't do well on TikTok have the potential to do really well on YouTube. Like they have it's completely different, I think. I don't think I have any crossover there with the videos that have gone viral on YouTube versus TikTok.
Interesting. Is there have you seen any pattern yet? Like what makes it roughly different there, and where is like what works well on TikTok and what works well on YouTube, or is it still like very random?
No, I have seen a pattern. So like the videos, so I'll do sometimes videos that are literally like makeup story times, and they're in first person. So I'm pretending to be the character, which I mean, not everyone's gonna be able to do this. Like I'm like literally, I'm a 37-year-old woman, and I am like, my characters are like 21 and like virgins, like 2 of them. So it's like, I think it's probably really cringe for some people to make videos like this. I don't care. Like I'm like, if you can make me money, I'll do it. But yeah, so it's like, it's in first person, and it's sort of like a gossip story. It's like, I'll be like, I asked my best friend to sleep with me. And then I like go through, and I think people are just like, they feel like they're getting a story time. And so they're into it. And that's what does well on YouTube.
Interesting.
The stuff that is more explicitly about my books does not do well.
Interesting. Because like I'm not that deep into makeup videos, but I have seen more of them though on YouTube than I've seen them on TikTok. So is that a thing?
Oh, yeah,
so it's like YouTube is bigger. Okay.
Yeah, they must just have they definitely have a younger audience. So I mean that's like people who are too young to read my books are definitely like on YouTube. I'm like, well, that's a parent problem, not a SKYLER problem. So I'm not gonna worry about that. But I think it's definitely a younger audience. So I think they're probably more intrigued by gossip like that. It also might be a little more untapped on YouTube. Like I think it's very like, it's huge on TikTok and has been for a while. So I think there's a lot more competition there. But I think I have much less on YouTube.
Interesting. So basically, you're like focused on TikTok and then like recycle on YouTube. That's kind of like your marketing strategy.
And I do put everything on Reels too, because it doesn't take much time to put it on there, but I've seen zero success there. And you get, oh my gosh, I get so many hate comments. That just shows how bad the algorithm is.
So more hate comments on Instagram than on TikTok and YouTube.
YouTube would be second after that, because there's definitely a lot of men who TikTok is amazing because it somehow finds the exact perfect audience. I rarely find like people leaving hate comments.
Interesting.
On TikTok. Wow. That just shows how good the algorithm is. Yeah.
That's so interesting. That's so cool. And on YouTube Shorts, is there any special tactic, anything to do there? Like, I think you have to you have like a is it the same texts and for the post that you need to upload than on TikTok, or do you need to add additional like headlines or anything like that, or a description or anything? It's basically literally 100% copy paste from TikTok.
Yeah, so you do have to remove the watermark. Like, they don't want a TikTok watermark on there, so you have to get like a watermark remover. But the text itself will just download with the video. It does not. The captions will go with it, so I don't have to do anything. I mean, I'll have to add hashtags and stuff. Okay, but that's it.
And is it different hashtags than on TikTok, or you just like copy paste them?
I am still not convinced that hashtags really matter. I don't know. I always use them, so I guess I should probably A/B test that sometime. But I just use whatever hashtags occur to me.
I see.
And are relevant to the video.
Very interesting. Yeah, you're. I've recently heard more and more about authors becoming more successful with YouTube Shorts. So it seems to be happening. So that's pretty cool. In this kind of new world of writing, and you just mentioned that you're writing your next book. There is like in 2023 like a huge boom of like AI tools that popped up, and there is all this ChatGPT, and there is like other like more specialized tools for authors that came out. Is that any useful for you? Does that make your life easier, or how do you think about like all these AI tools?
Well, I love new things. I usually get really excited and I find them really fun. So AI is really fun for me right now. I think it's awesome for brainstorming, and like, because the creative process is like, it is not linear, and it's like you sometimes have to like get out of a box, like the box of your own head, because sometimes you're just like so fixated on like one thing that you're not willing to explore other ideas. Often the ideas that these like AI programs give me are like trash, but they get me thinking about like whatever I'm stuck on in a different way, because they are going somewhere else than I ever even thought to go. And then a lot of times I'll be like, oh, like here's something I could do. And so I think it's really helpful for like unblocking. It's also really good at like coming up with like, well, I use it for research constantly. So like, cause it's so much quicker than like Google. So I'll ask it anything, and it might be wrong, but I'm writing fiction. In my universe, this is how it is. So it's really cool for that. Like football. Like I used to make all my heroes were basketball players because I like basketball. And so I could actually like write basketball realistically. Football, I'd be like, oh my God, I don't even want to like look at this article. I could just ask ChatGPT, and I'll even like, not only will I ask it like about football, but like I'll give it the dialogue. I'll be like, is this realistic? So I don't have to ask my brother, which I always used to do, and it'll be like, yes. Or it'll say, no, it would like, this makes more sense, and like it'll fix it for me. So like really nice for stuff like that.
That's awesome. So it's a very good partner, and like, because writing is such a solo thing, and you're like always like you're the only person who knows what's going on, but now you suddenly have a person, another being that is able to know exactly what you're doing and actually able to give you different perspectives. Yeah,
and it's fun. Like, I don't know why people don't find it fun. Like, I love the crazy stuff it comes up with sometimes. Like, it has like literally, like, I've asked it for like a scene idea, but like, I'm stuck here, where should I go? And it just comes up with something where I'm like, I'm going to get arrested if I write that. But it's like hilarious that this AI came up with this. Yeah. So yeah, I think it's fun.
And do you primarily use it for text, or have you experimented for your covers or anything like that?
No. So yeah, I have a cover designer and she's like amazing. I really trust her. So yeah,
Awesome.
I've not really gone there. I'm not a visual person at all. So I'm not like, I wouldn't be good at like judging whether something's good or not.
I see.
So yeah, I haven't really gone much into that.
I see.
Sometimes I will have it like generate an image of my characters so that like I'll use like Midjourney or something. Just to kind of
You're really deep into this. Like using Midjourney is like, I would say like it's like you being in Discord, knowing like the commands and all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I just like literally, I think I had ChatGPT tell me how to use Midjourney.
Really?
So, yes,
No way.
So that's how I learned the commands. Like that, I mean, I'll just like describe like what the character looks like and it'll like create an image. I'm like, and then I'll have like a better visual sense and then that'll help me write the scene.
That's super cool. And then you could potentially even use it in your TikTok videos or anything like that, right?
That's a good idea. I haven't done that, but yeah.
Yeah, we do that a lot at Inkit.
Oh.
Yeah. And it's really great for testing also different versions of your cover.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, this is all stuff. There's so many things you could potentially do as an author. And like sometimes I have to just like keep it simple, but yeah.
Yeah, we're actually right now like working on a tool on the Inkit platform for as a writer's assistant to help them exactly do these things you just mentioned and have that for free, hopefully.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So if you were to improve something on ChatGPT for writers, what would it be? Like what should we implement?
I think more like specificity within like writing commands. Like there was some like function that I want. I can't even remember, but like it'll like occur to me that like it would be really nice if like there's one thing that like I do always as a writer that I could just like there's just like a button that I could press and then like ChatGPT would just do it automatically. I also wish that it had better like long form comprehension. Like if you give it a whole chapter and like try to get information, it does not remember the chapter.
Yeah.
So like Claude does, I wish.
You're really deep into this stuff.
I know.
Okay.
I love new things. Like,
okay. Wow. You're also using
like,
Claude. Okay.
Trying. I just like trying them out. Like, it's just like fun for me. Especially like every like writer is always just like trying to find a reason not to write. So like this is one of the things that I do.
Wow.
Yeah. Claude can like look at like a lot of information at a time.
That's true. And where did you learn about all of this stuff? Is there like are there other authors that are like so deep as you are, or like did you research about all these AI tools on your own, or?
I listened to this podcast called The Creative Pen. Joanna Penn, she's this like self-published author. She's like such an innovator and she's amazing. She's a goddess. And I think I've learned it. I think she'll like mention it on her podcast and I'm like, I'm going to go try this.
Go check it out. I see. So your favorite tools are ChatGPT and Claude for writing and then Midjourney for designing right now?
I would say I use Pseudowrite more than Claude. Because Pseudowrite is very like tailored to writers.
Yes. Yeah. I see. So you use Pseudowrite for like filling in the scenes and so on, and then ChatGPT for like just if you have like research questions or something like that.
Yeah. Now filling in the scenes, like it's usually really, really bad.
Really bad. Okay.
But for me, it's fine because it just unblocks me. So I'll rewrite it.
Yeah.
But just seeing like the scene going forward helps me. And I also love rewriting. Like I rewrite my own books like so much, like heavily. So, I do not recommend anyone like just use the write function on Pseudowrite. You're going to make a pretty bad book or just a really generic one.
Okay.
It's the worst dialogue, like the worst dialogue ever. But I do, it's just like fun. It's fun for it to give me trash and to like.
So what are the functionalities that you said is good on Pseudowrite?
So the write function. So like if I'm stuck and I hit write, it'll.
But
like,
that's the one that you said is not so good. That's a not so good part, or is it a good part?
It does. It writes terrible.
But,
but I still use it. And then it also has this function where you can like highlight a word and then like hit describe, and it'll give you like the 5 senses, and then it'll like give you like different descriptions within each, which I never use like smell, or like I guess I use taste because I write spicy, but like it'll just kind of like make you describe things or give you ideas to describe things in different ways. I never use exactly what they
So it's still like a brainstorming partner for you.
Yes.
Yeah, I see. That's very cool. And have you already published anything that where you made like extensive use of these AI tools yet, or is it still like the one that is in production?
My last book.
Your last book.
So
okay.
Lust, I used AI a lot. I mean, I don't think there's probably very few words that actually survived, but I used it. It helped me a lot in drafting.
Yeah.
Because I already write terribly when my first draft.
Yeah.
So having AI write something terribly that I then have to completely rewrite. I wouldn't say I didn't use it extensively, but I did use it in a lot of scenes. And so, yeah.
I see. Very interesting. Very cool. And in Aftermath, you would say like it helped you be a better writer?
Yeah, actually, because it will like describe things in different ways. And then that'll make me think of ways of different ways of writing. And so, yeah, I think it continues to make me a better writer.
And what are the qualities of this? Like, is the being a brainstorming partner? Is it helping you with the efficiency? Is it like, are you now like able to write a great book faster or so because of it, or not necessarily?
So I think I'm marginally faster because of AI, because I do get blocked a lot and it really helps me with that. But I don't think I'm much faster because I do pretty much rewrite everything it gives me. Especially like, I mean, I already rewrite it before it goes to my editor, but then she then gives me like, she'll rip it apart and then I'm like massively rewriting it again. So I actually wouldn't say it makes me that much faster, but I do think it makes me a better writer.
So you kind of have now like two layers of editors, basically, something like that. You have like two partners.
Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it.
Interesting. Talking about editors, like how did you find your editor, and do you have any tips for other authors that are looking for an editor? How do you find the right person?
I think really word of mouth is helpful, like going into author groups and asking other authors. I found mine through my critique partner. It was her editor, and I knew her books were damn good.
Your critique partner? Who's your...
So Gabrielle Sands, she's way more successful than me, by the way. Wow. So your listeners should check her out. So is she your same author friend that got you started? Or on TikTok? Yeah.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
I see.
Oh yeah, she's my work wife. So yeah, we are like attached to the hip. So yeah. Wow. She gets me into like everything because she's always looking for like new things. So it was her editor, and then I signed on with her.
Interesting. Very cool. Very cool. It's very important to have the right person, right chemistry, being able to take their feedback, not feeling offended by their feedback and so on, right?
Yeah. Now I prefer an editor to rip my work apart. And I mean, because I'm kind of like, if you can tell me it's good, what am I paying you for? Like, I want you to tell me it's bad so that I can actually like, I mean, editing's expensive, like so that I can get a lot out of it. But I think for like new authors, you kind of have to like figure out like what kind of feedback like you can tolerate and like maybe make that clear with the editor. Like, I'm fine if my editor says like, this is boring, or like, I absolutely hate your male main character. She said that to me last time. She hated him and she told me, she reminded me over and over again, but it was really important for me because I knew I had to make a major change to that book, which I did. And now I think it's my best book I've ever written. I think some people might like that might be hard for some people to be like told like, I hate this character.
Yes.
So I think you would probably need to tell your editor, look, like, please make sure that you tell me positive things. If it's terrible, like maybe be diplomatic about it, or, like, I think because writing's hard and it's a lot about mindset. If you're going to be so like discouraged from your editor that you never want to write again, then that's not successful and that's not a good use of your money. So I think outlining that with an editor, or like asking them like how they give feedback and like making sure that it's something that works for you. I see.
So you guys like worked on that over time, and you guys like kind of like became a better team, and now she knows how to give you the right feedback the way that you would accept it. Yeah,
I think she learned over time. Like, I think she was much more like diplomatic with me in the beginning. I think she learned it as well. Skylar does not care. Like I can rip it apart. And so now like she doesn't hold back at all.
Okay.
But yeah, I think editors are usually a little careful at first because I think some
Makes
people
sense.
have a really hard time with negative feedback.
Yeah. I mean, like, imagine you're on first book and you spend like so for so long writing on, right? And then you would hand that over to an editor and they would tear it apart. And then you're like, your world is broken.
Yeah, it's your baby.
It's like, your baby.
That first book is your baby. Now I'm past that. My books are my employees. The best performing one is my absolute favorite. I put all of my time and effort into that employee. You know, like I think you shift that perspective when you've been writing for a while. You're no longer your babies anymore.
Yeah.
Like, you're not making money.
You're very, very professional about it.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the mindset of a successful author. So you just told me how you got started. You know, you had a very rough start, and the first book was not great. Second one was not so. And then like it took a while for you to kind of like see the fruits of TikTok, and then it exploded, and you became like really, really huge, and now you're like continuously learning. You're like using the same videos that you had on TikTok, moving them on YouTube, and then some of the others are becoming successful, and then now you're making use of ChatGPT and Claude and Pseudowrite and Midjourney, and you're like constantly getting better. So talking about the mindset of a successful author, what do you think? Like, what are the things that is important for other authors to kind of like learn and try to adapt and a mindset to apply? What are the important key things to be successful as an author?
I think like taking like looking at like the long game, like how long do you want to be an author? Like most of us want to do this until we retire, or until we're dead. And like, you are not going to see like this like linear, like, you know, straight line to like success, like, you know, just earning more and more money and never seeing dips. Like it's going to be a zigzag. And it's going to be like, you're going to have like months where you're not making as much money. You're going to have books that don't hit. And like when you're first starting out, like that feels like the end of the world. Or like when I put my first book out, I was like, I must be bad at this. Like that was just like my perspective. I kept at it though. And like I think maybe other people would not keep at it. Like other people are not as delusional as I am, where I'm like, I think, oh, like I'll do this. I'll figure it out. But like you have to realize that you're going to be writing lots of books, like 50, 100. And so like not letting like individual like slumps like get you down or make you quit. Or even interfere with your writing or I mean, you have to allow yourself to feel. Like you can't just like pretend like everything's okay. Like you need to allow yourself to grieve if you're, you know, upset over a book that didn't launch well. But once you've grieved, be like, okay, what do I do now? Yeah. And always be looking forward. Because in the long run, I really do think like if you are continually writing, that's the biggest thing. Like you need to be putting books out. And if you are at least like learning from other people around you, or learning more importantly from your own successes and failures, you're going to continue to make more and more money. It doesn't mean it's, you know, next month you're going to be making more money, but in the long term, you're going to see growth. And I think just keeping that into perspective, I really don't think it's possible in this industry to be like doing things like in a smart way and continually like publishing. I don't think it's like possible to not have success. I really do think most people have success if they keep at it.
Just keep going, keep believing, don't give up. Sometimes it's tough, but learn from the mistakes and keep going.
Yeah. And anyone who wants to, like, I invite you to read my first book and be like, you'll be like, oh Lord, like what was she thinking here? Or look at my early videos on TikTok. They are some of the cringiest things like you will ever like, you will like want to close your eyes. They're so bad. Like, so, you know, like I have grown a lot. Like I was not naturally good at writing or TikTok, but like I figured it out.
Yeah. Yeah. Talking about writing, I think like over time you said like, you know, your first book was not so great, or you didn't like it because you never launched it, and then like you became better and better and better. How was that process like, and was that like just because of your editor who was giving continuously feedback to you, she made you a better writer, or did you like how's been like, you know, kind of like your learnings on the actual craft of writing? How has that improved?
So I think I've learned from I learned a lot from my editor. I think also just your storytelling abilities, like I think they are sharpened with each book, especially if you get heavy editing. I think there's just no way, like your storytelling is just going to become more instinctual as you go along. So there's that. I'm also constantly reading books about writing, constantly taking courses.
Oh, wow.
And then reading good books too. Like I am always like reading romance novels, and not necessarily even in my genre. Sometimes I read romantic fantasy or historical romance, or I love mafia romance, but like I'm always like learning from like, if there's like a scene where I'm just like, oh, that just got me. And then it's like, what about this? Yeah. And then I, you know, apply that.
Are there any like, imagine like there's an author right now listening, you know, who is being, you know, in the same place where you were after your first book. And like, what is the book that you would recommend to them, or like a few books, or like, I don't know, course or something, or like another, you know, a handful of like romance books to read for them to get inspired to say like, okay, I'm not going to give up. I'm going to do my second one now.
Okay. So as far as like craft books go, I really think Wired for Story and Story Genius, they're both by Lisa Crone. Those are phenomenal. There's also The Secrets of Story by Matt Bird. That one's amazing. As far as books, oh my gosh, I don't know why you're asking a reader this question. For me, like, okay, this is a historical romance, and like not many people write historical romance, but the author that like I have learned the most from is her name is Sherry Thomas, and she wrote 8 historical romances that are so phenomenal. They are like, every one of them is a masterpiece, and she is so good at storytelling. Like, you never want to put those books down. Like, you want to read them until like the break of dawn. Like, you sit in bed before, like, you know, you have work the next day and you can't stop reading them. She's just a phenomenal storyteller.
Amazing. Very cool. Very cool. That's I'm sure like a lot of people are just right now ordering all these books and starting to read. That's amazing. Thank you very much.
I hope no one cancels me for all the AI stuff.
No, I think that's amazing, and I think that's great for the Inkit audience, because we're doing a lot of things with AI.
I guess that's true, right?
Yeah.
Like, you guys have a lot of that stuff. All right.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Yeah,
I learned a lot. That was super cool, and I was like very amazed like to see like how many AI tools you have already tried out, and how deep you are already. Yeah.
I love to procrastinate.
That's awesome.